Welcome back to my channel. Today I want to talk about relationship. I'm not just going to talk about it by myself, so I'm going to welcome my partner, Amar. Hi!
Good to be here. Thank you for having me.
We are about to hop into our 5th year of relationship together. 5 years is pretty precious. It's actually the longest relationship I've ever had.
Same. My longest was 2 years. 5 years is pretty good.
Yeah. Today I want to share with you guys about some of the unconventional things or mindset or belief or things that we do that got us here today.
Yeah, I feel like we're pretty unconventional people. And
we are.
Had a few techniques to help us through this rocky road of relationship.
And that is not to say that like we're perfect, because
oh, not at all. We're still working on it.
Actually, we just had a fight earlier.
Yeah.
We want to normalize imperfection in relationship, and also just share with you guys about some of the things that we feel like we never got to see it with our parents, and it's something that we have to learn in ourselves. It fits us, it works for us, and maybe it'll work for you too. Let's do it. First thing first is every time when something is off, we work on it ASAP. And that is not necessarily the best thing, I would say, but that's just our thing. And that's our thing, but it's more so that's my thing. Personally, I feel like I'm pretty sensitive, and when I know and sense that something is off between us, I'd rather for us to be connected than to stay disconnected. And to me, I really see our relationship as like a sacred temple. It's my little choreography. Yeah, so every time when we feel disconnected, we work on it ASAP.
Yeah, and I think it's like a blessing and a curse, because, you know, it's a blessing because we always deal with what's at the forefront of our connection, but also it's like it can be hard at times to be constantly going through conflict.
Yeah, I feel like when we're good, the world is good. And when we're not good, like the world is not that good. Our connection is almost like the inspiration and the source of everything else in my life. Another thing I want to add is like, because we talk about things every time it arises, if I were to compare it to like what my last relationship, or maybe what I see in my best friend, is sometimes like in other relationship, it's like because they don't talk about it and it like boggle up inside of them, and then it either like explodes later on, it becomes a much bigger thing. Readjust, recalibrate every day, every moment. It's like, oh, we're a little bit disconnected, let's come back. We're a little bit disconnected, let's come back, instead of like disconnected, despair, you know? Because we do this, for every one conflict resolution that a couple normally has, we already have 10 of them. So like that's helps us grow really fast, because we're kind of constantly like dealing with this.
Okay, number 2, one important thing that's led us to be in a committed relationship for 5 years is that we're both always open to growing, and we're open to accepting the flaws and taking responsibility for our end. We each have to give 60-40 in the relationship, and we're both trying to be the 60. Having that mindset of you take responsibility for my end and you take responsibility for your end. And it's so easy to blame our partners because we're so close to them and we love them so much. It's just so easy to put that blame onto them. And we know we struggle with that, having that open mind to like learn and grow. And yeah, we do struggle with it, but we eventually come to the realization that, hey, I did this in this situation, and let me take responsibility, and you do the same. And that's what kind of gets us out of conflict fairly quickly. And I think that's like an extremely important thing that has led us to where we are.
And it's definitely not to say that we don't blame one another, but we have gotten a lot better over the course of years. I think that really comes from us like reinforcing the safety of our relationship. When things are getting triggered, what happens is ultimately like we don't feel safe and like we fight or flight. Through our devotion to one another, we start to kind of soften that trigger, and it becomes easier to take radical self ownership and responsibility. Number 3, it's a fun one, is that I don't believe we have secrets. I feel like we tell each other everything.
Yeah, no, there's nothing I'm hiding from you.
Like some of like, and we can get like, I don't know, spicy, juicy over here. Let's list some stuff that we talk about that maybe can help you get permission to talk about it with your partner. I talk about my ex a lot.
If I'm like attracted to a girl, and you know, I'll say it up front, and I think that, you know, she doesn't take it personally, and we kind of like laugh and joke at it together, you know, and make it a thing together.
We tell each other every time we masturbate, and it's not like, I don't know, I think for me, I just want to tell you because I just don't want to like hide it from you. Is there a shame involved? Maybe a little bit. It's gotten better and better.
Yeah.
I think maybe it started off as like, I want to tell you because I feel ashamed, but I feel like nowadays it's just like, hey, like I did that, and you're like, how was it? And I'll be like, oh, how was it for you? And then sometimes like, what, you didn't wait for me?
You may be watching this and be like a bit triggered, be like, oh, I can never tell my partner about that. And I think it goes back to what we were saying before about being open-minded and being willing to like, you know, just be humans and allow ourselves to be and just be open to each other, you know? Yeah.
I remember this one time very early on of our relationship, and there's just something that I did as a child that I was really shameful of. And then I was like, I needed to tell him. I just needed to let that out because I don't want that to be a secret between us. So when I told you about what I did as a child, and you were like so open and just like see me, and you still see me for who I am, and it didn't bother you at all. And then in fact you like share with me like, oh, I used to do things that I was ashamed of as a kid too, and then you share, and then we just had a really beautiful moment, seeing each other like non-judgmentally and, you know, loving each other no matter what. We talk about the possibility of like, what is an open relationship? What if we want to be sexually explorative to other people? Like, it's just a lot of like, what if? And I feel like all of those conversations are really beautiful to have. And the reason is because what you shame, it perpetuates. And the more I don't open up to him, and it's not necessarily him, but him is just literally a mirror of me, a reflection of me. Am I open and allowing that part of me to be seen? Because I no longer want to shame that part of me. And the more I open up to you as like a witness, the more I free myself. And I feel like you've always been really good at accepting me and loving me, even if I want to do things that are unconventional.
The things that you tell me that I do get triggered with, it's like more about me than about you, right? So it's like, that's a growth opportunity.
No.
So the next thing I would say, which has hugely impacted our relationship, is that, you know, we both have done a lot of research and study about relationships and read books, and we kind of both came to the conclusions that we have these subconscious patterns that are inherited from our upbringing, from our parents, that cause conflict. And I think a lot of relationships, they don't actually admit that they have these patterns that we've been grown up with and that are probably similar to our parents that are causing these conflicts. And I think because we've learned about that and we've had that open mind, we work on these patterns to change these patterns so we can live more harmoniously.
Can you give us examples?
Yeah, of course. For example, my parents were never really emotionally available for me. And it just, my entire family in general, just there was no emotional availability, there was no emotional connection, there was no, hey, how you feeling today? So I actually learned to never like listen to my emotions or trust my emotions or speak about my emotions. And you know, of course, I meet the girl who's like all about emotions and super intuitive with emotions, and it's like a pattern I've kind of like trained myself and almost like a survival mechanism to allow myself to survive my family growing up, is to disconnect from my emotions. And you know, that's like a huge pattern that we've been working on and still are working on, but it doesn't serve me in my relationship, and it causes a lot of conflict. Of course, if I'm disconnected from my emotions, how can Tiff ever know how I'm feeling, or you know, how can we ever connect, right? So that's been a huge pattern that I've had to overcome, and then still am overcoming.
I feel the need to like make a disclaimer, because this is your individual experience, and it has nothing to do with how amazing your family and your immediate, but also your distant family is. They're just beautiful people.
Yeah, my parents.
It's
are
just
amazing.
like as a child, based with your child's mind, how you perceive the world and how you navigate the world, and
exactly.
the exact same thing could have happened to a different child and have a completely different experience. So I just want to make that disclaimer.
Yeah, like for example, my brother, he's very emotional and he's very in tune with his emotion. It's just this is the way I chose to survive and create a survival mechanism with me growing up in this. And there's nothing to say that there's anything wrong with my parents. I love them, they're amazing people. It just, this is how I turned out, right? And we can either take responsibility for that, or we can just let it be a victim of it for the rest of our lives, right? And if we be a victim of it, we give our power away. And I think it's a big thing. Once we take responsibility, we gain that power back. And definitely it's harder. It's a harder route to take, but it's more fulfilling, and we can live more harmoniously, right?
Yeah.
Instead of trying to just like, you know, try to put bandages or, you know, try to work around our patterns instead of just changing the pattern, right?
So Amar and I, we have nicknames of our defense mechanism. For me, I'm the porcupine because I just attack.
Shoot squirrels at me.
And he is a chameleon because he just disconnects and just fades into the background.
Blend into the background.
I think this is maybe just what I saw growing up in my mom, and you know, and it's like we use manipulation and attack to protect the inner child of us. So when I get triggered and I don't feel safe, and my wound is being activated, I am like protecting myself by like fighting and attacking. It takes time throughout the years to like reinforce that safety of like, oh no, he is safe. Even when I'm in the trigger state, he actually loves me, and not take those mistakes very personally. And definitely a work in progress. Something I want to add on is like, these are not the things that happens overnight. It's like we've been together for 5 years and we're still very much in the midst.
Yeah, and I think we've come to the point where we recognize it. We can get out of conflict faster than before because we know, okay, we're back in it, but we're still working on completely changing that pattern, which, yeah, it takes time. It just takes, because we can't expect ourselves to, we've been developing these patterns for what, 20, 30 years, and now all of a sudden we're starting to change them, right? So it's going to take some time to change them.
Yeah. My last one is, I think our relationship is very much based off of that we are supporting each other in our own journeys. And I feel like in the past when I first started dating you, if people were to ask me like, oh, like what is a relationship? And I'll be like, oh, it's two people walking together on a separated journey. But then I feel like that's nowadays, 5 years later, I feel like that it's a super hyper independent thought and belief. And I feel like over the course of years, I'm learning that actually relationship is codependent in a way. It's like, I don't know if you want to use interdependent or codependent, but like in a way that is healthy. And when I say healthy, there's also elements of unhealthy. And when I say elements of unhealthy, I don't know what's that. No, but
back to it.
Yeah, but I do feel like sometimes when we get into the midst of our relationship, we forget that we're actually are, in a way, we have our own individual journeys as well as our own together journey. And what I really appreciate being with you, it's like you never make me feel like I have to do a certain things or I can't do a certain things. It's like whatever that I do, if it's of my highest truth, you support me. And I really like the foundation of that, of our relationship. Giving you a few examples, it's like, for example, we talk about that, like, what if one day you want to be a monk? Am I going to be okay with it? Or like, what if I want to explore my sexuality? Are you going to be okay with it? You know, even just like from the very beginning. And I think that's like a big thing where I feel like you're just like, we're just very much laid on this foundation. Is when we first started dating, I'm still like in the process of moving on from my ex. And like, side note, it is healthy and you can still be moving on from your ex while you're in a healthy relationship. And I feel like you've just been so supportive of it. Like, it doesn't make you feel any certain way. It doesn't make you doubt your love for me or my love for you. I would love for us to like continue to have that foundation.
I feel the same way. It's like our goals and desires are very aligned, and you know, even the things that are not, and the things that I don't really understand, I still support her, and the things that I want to do and she doesn't really understand, she supports me because she sees that this makes me happy. And I think that at the end of the day, that's all we want for each other, for us to be more happy, and being together like kind of amplifies our happiness because you have someone to support you, you have someone to share with, and makes it that much better. So yeah, it's like Tiff has given me so much support in the things that I want to do, and it comes back to being open and just being allowing yourself. I feel like we don't really have expectations on we need to be a certain way or we need to be doing a certain thing. Okay, the last one, I think is the most important one, and if you haven't got anything out of this video, I think this is the one that...
Oh, wow, okay. I don't even know what the last one is.
This is the one that will really impact your relationship, and it's one that I've learned from this course we took together is whenever you're in conflict, treat it as an opportunity for intimacy. So I'll say that again. Conflict is just an opportunity for intimacy. And once you have that mindset, conflict, because at the end of the day, what causes a relationship to be rocky and up and down? It's conflict, right? Imagine if you treat conflict as an opportunity for you to connect with your partner. It makes it like, oh, okay, we're back in conflict. This is going to get us deeper, instead of being like, oh, we're back here, you know, oh, I don't know if I can do this, blah, 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 and then going down that negative road. If you come with the mindset that, hey, I'm feeling a bit hurt. Okay, this is an opportunity for us to connect deeper. You come from that place, you can move through conflict much faster and you can grow your connection much faster. And I know it's difficult when the time comes and we're triggered and we're defensive. It's really hard to have that mindset. If that's something you come back to frequently and more, you'll start to find that your connection will grow every time you get into a conflict. And it's just like an upward spiral instead of a downward spiral that most relationships are in. So I think that one is extremely important to have that mindset.
I think maybe that's why we're not afraid of getting involved. That's why we get into so much.
Yeah.
No, but but I think, okay, so when he first told me this, I was like, what the fuck does that mean? But then I was like, okay, whenever you're in conflict, if I have to make it very simple, whenever you're in conflict, you're either going to come out of the conflict kind of feeling more disconnected with one another, or if you have but the strategy to communicate the heart and bring back to your connection, you actually ended up feeling closer and have more understanding of one another. And that's something that I feel like we didn't really realize until probably third year into our relationship and really started working on communicate effectively in times of conflict. And I think that also helps like reinforce the safety between us, because we're not communicating from our defensive mechanism, which just caused us to be more in disconnection. We're actually learning how to communicate effectively, where it de-escalate and then help us bring back to our connection. Then we learn from what actually happened and how can we be better. Last but not least, someone asked us how to grow together in alignment but also respecting free will.
I don't know why those two would contradict each other. I feel like the more you respect the other's free will, the more you're going to be aligned.
Oh shit! I did not expect that answer. Whoa. Okay. Whoa, that was good. Sorry, I'm still like, I'm like, you did not just say that.
That question kind of like brought up something in me, because when I've been in a relationship, I always thought I can't be an individual. I can't have my free will. I always have to be with Tiff and do what she wants and sacrifice myself. And I feel like that actually built up a lot of resentment. And I feel like as our relationship progressed, actually only the past couple of years, I think, is the importance of having your individual space in a relationship. And that might mean different things for different people. Coming back to being your own individual kind of gives you that sense of recharge. Like, I think most men and maybe more masculine energy likes to like retreat to their man cave and do their man things. And you know, if you don't have that time to do that, you don't have that free will to like be able to have that, your relationship kind of gets congested in a sense. And you know, me learning to have that space and create that space for myself, it actually makes me come back into my relationship much stronger, and it makes me like, it adds like the juice and the oil to the relationship and brings back all the attraction back in, forcing myself to like sacrifice my free will. And it just makes the relationship dry, and to force myself to do it.
Second thing is like, I think you had this assumption of that being in a relationship means you have to lose your free will.
Yeah, exactly. For some reason, I had that assumption.
Yeah. And then that caused you to be more resentful when, like, from the very beginning, I'm like, no, I respect your free will. I want you to be free. Thank you for listening. We are reaching our 5-year soon, next month. And I hope you learned something from this video. Say something.
Like and subscribe.
No.
I hope you guys got a lot out of this video. If you have any questions in the comments below, we'd love to like talk more about this and open up the conversation with you guys.
Okay, now you can go now. Okay, bye.